So we've made it to the Japanese Classic Car Show. There were enough awesome cars in the parking lot to have its own car show, but now actually being in the show, this is ridiculous. This is insane. I am super excited to take a look at some of these cars. I'm overwhelmed with how much cool stuff there is here. Oh my God, this is like the cleanest Toyota Sera I've ever seen. It looks so awesome. We have to talk to this owner.
So this is a 1990 Toyota Sera. I was at a show about 6 years ago. I didn't know what these were, and one was there, and I was like, wow, what is that thing with the crazy, doors and the sound system? So I started to do a lot of research, and I started looking for one, and I found a number of them for sale, but they were pretty much used cars. One of the things that I wanted was this color, which is green, yellow, mica metallic, and the super live sound system. And I wanted a stick, and apparently only about 10% of them were 5-speeds. Most of them were automatics. They made them from 1990 to 1995, and they only made about a little over 15,000 of them. And there's probably about 100 in the US at this point.
Okay.
So,
oftentimes I ask people what drew them to the car, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Well, I like kind of wacky stuff.
Yeah.
And when I saw this and I saw the doors, I'm like, why did they make that? And why didn't we get it here? I found this car about 3 years ago. I'm really happy with it. And the super live sound system actually works.
Yeah.
And what that consists of is 10 speakers. There's speakers in the dash, speakers in the door. There's a subwoofer in the trunk. But it has this boombox thing here on the package tray. There's a little motor in it, and there's a button on the system, and it'll shift from funky mode to casual mode. And what it does is it rotates the speakers, so they either go forward or they go up onto the background. So I'm pretty much always in funky mode because that's the way to roll.
You need a T-shirt that says that. I'm always in funky mode.
So I'm very delighted, and I'm delighted that people are getting to see it and enjoy it.
Is there any relation to the Paseo? Is there any shared parts?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like the engine, the brakes and stuff is all sort of Paseo or Starlet. And it's not a very fast car. I mean, it's, but I don't think you'd really want to go too fast with this. But when you close the door, you really kind of get the effect of how you're driving in a little bubble. Wow. And it's kind of cool because you have sort of like a panoramic view. And there are panels that pop into there to keep some of the heat down. But I live in Palm Springs, so I pretty much don't drive this in the daytime because the air conditioning just kind of doesn't keep up. As cool as it is, when you're just driving on the freeway, it just kind of blends in. It's just like another little green car. But when you put the doors up, then it's a full-time party. So
full-time party in funky mode.
Exactly.
Yes. That's awesome. Those are the factory floor mats right there. Wow. You would think that was like some aftermarket thing.
Yeah, so there's a party on the floor apparently too.
Yes. Oh my God, I love this. This is so nice. This is just so nice.
So there's quite a few modified CRXs here, Honda CRXs. But right here, this is my favorite, completely stock, completely clean, unmodified, unmolested 89 CRX. 77,000 miles on this thing. Out of all the CRXs here, maybe out of all the Hondas here, this is probably my favorite. You just don't see them like this anymore. All right, I take that back. This is my favorite CRX from the show. This is amazing.
So this is the HF model, which Honda changed the gearing and did a lot of lighter components to get high gas mileage. So I drove it here from Pennsylvania, and I got 48 miles to the gallon, and I was going 75 miles an hour. So it could still get really good gas mileage. It's not comfortable. It's really light. It bounces around, but this one actually had some rust in the floors. I had to get the floors repaired, and I had to repaint it, but I tried to keep everything as close to stock as I could. I've had it for about 15 years.
Oh, 15 years,
But
okay,
this was my big trip was last week driving out here.
I see,
And next week
okay.
I'm going to drive back.
Oh, sweet, awesome. What drew you to this car initially?
My very first car that I bought new in 1984 was the CRX.
Okay.
Not this one, but that was the very first car I had. So.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of nostalgia there. A little bit,
And they're fun cars.
And how many miles does this one have on it?
Yeah, I left home with 92,000. It has 96 on it.
Okay, so is this kind of a long-term keeper car for you?
I keep it, yeah.
So right behind me is actually one of my favorite cars from the show, and turns out, because of the decals that are on this thing, it's actually one of my daughter's favorite cars of the show.
So, look at this car. It has a dinosaur.
It has a dinosaur.
And look at this, and this.
All right, what's your joke?
This car is called the Bluebird, but it's not even blue.
Oh my gosh, let's go take a look. So this is a Toyota Crown. Where did you expect to see the Crown?
On top.
On top of the car? Yeah, that's probably where the Crown belongs, huh?
Yeah, but it's on the bottom.
It's on the grill. I know. It's not quite as royal as you thought it would be, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a 79 GLC, three-door hatchback. I bought it from the third owner out of Washington. My dad had one when I was a little kid, so for about 20 years I've been looking for one. And
Really?
This is
Okay.
only about the fourth one I've found in 20 years.
I haven't seen one since I was a kid.
Yeah, so I found it. It was a bit of a basket case, but I got it here, and basically spent about a year or so restoring it. So
Okay, so what did you do to it?
Basically, just try to put it back to stock. It had a fender and a door replaced, so I had the whole thing kind of repainted and fixed up. But basically, just tried to go back and get as much original pieces as I can. I'm pretty close. I'm only missing about 2 or 3 little pieces that would put it back to 100% original.
Okay,
But,
so this was a pretty big process to kind of get it to where it is
yeah,
now?
I definitely learned a lot of time management with regards to getting things together. But the good thing is there's a kind of a cult following of these in Australia. There's some parts available there, but you pay a lot for shipping. GLC, this generation, the rear-wheel drive, was around from 77 until 80.
Okay.
So for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, they sold just under about 70,000.
Okay.
So they were around, but they were commuter cars. I think a lot of people just disposed of them when they were done, right?
Yeah,
so like,
exactly.
It's like a Chevette. Who wants to keep a Chevette around, right?
Yeah,
So, but
exactly.
Yeah,
And
for me, it's been a bit of a nostalgia trip.
What is it like to drive? By today's standards, maybe a little bit slow?
Oh, it's scary. Yeah. Well, it's a 1.4 liter with 68 horsepower, so I'm not going anywhere fast. Originally, it had an automatic, and I swapped in a 5-speed.
Okay.
So at least it's got some fun with a manual transmission, but
Yeah.
it doesn't go very fast. But I always thought it was interesting. You know, you don't see the little hatchbacks with the rear-wheel drive or anything anymore. So
Exactly.
that's what I always wanted.
I'm drawn towards cars like this, you know, cars that shouldn't have been saved. And for some reason, somebody did.
They found some sort of, well, like I said, the original owner, she had it for over 30 years. So that's the only reason this thing probably survived, is because she only had one car, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
you know, if this thing would have changed owner's hands multiple times, it would have been dead long ago.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
This is a 1988 Mazda 929. It was one previous owner to us, a little old lady, lived in San Diego, worked at Miramar Naval Station, and I believe she used to just drive it kind of back and forth to work. Just on the way down today, just rolled over 44,000 miles.
Oh, wow. So barely used.
Barely used. You know, they didn't sell many of these to begin with, and you just never see them. And to find one in this condition, it was just a lucky, you know, we were lucky it popped up on Craigslist and we sort of snatched it up. And it drives great. It needs nothing. We just pretty much took a buffer to the paint, and that was about
Sure.
it. We actually have a friend back east who has almost the identical car.
Okay.
He works for Mazda, and we were like, oh, we should get this. It's just like Dan's car. And And we drove down, and it was just like, you know, it was advertised, and did the deal, hopped in the car, and drove it back to Palm Springs where we live, and it's great. It just runs like a top and doesn't really need much of anything. And
was there anything in particular that drew you to this car? I mean, do you like cars from this era?
Yes, we like cars from lots of eras, but definitely like cars from the 80s.
Yeah.
The digital dash is very, very rare. Digital dashes. They made very few of these here.
Okay.
With the digital dash, it was a special order option.
Yeah.
And that was very cool. We'd never even seen one. That was great. And you know, in this era, some of the Mazdas, the 929 and the Mazda 6, had those air conditioning vents that automatically.
The oscillating vent. I thought you were going to mention that.
Yes.
Yep. And
that's just awesome. I mean, what a crazy, crazy thing. And I don't know. It's just we sort of like the oddball and unique and the unicorns, you know.
Yeah.
And,
I found my people.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of Tercels. I actually owned an 87. This is probably one of the cleanest Tercels I've ever seen. I wish the owner was here because I absolutely need to talk to them. This is an 82. It looks perfect. It looks like literally perfect. I don't know if maybe you can tell me if you agree or not, but I feel like these are sort of underappreciated.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And not to knock these, obviously A86s are wonderful cars. Like, they're super cool. It's a great platform. But yeah, when you park me next to the famous ones, like, they're gonna get even less and less attention. But
yeah,
I will say I've gotten a lot of attention this year, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And people are just kind of like, wow, like, that looks interesting, especially when you do a couple things to it. They're getting there, but yeah, they are underappreciated, and I like that though.
Yeah, exactly.
I like being kind of different than everybody else. Usually, the only people that know what this is are just like, oh, I had one of those when they were brand new or something. Like,
exactly.
I had one of those in '95, but yeah, my dad bought this in 2005, and I was a kid. I was like, dude, I love that car. He was gonna flip it. I was like, keep it, and he literally held on to it until I was old enough to drive, and then he gave it to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, so I always was drawn to it. So you know, I've done like light restoration stuff. Disc brake swap, the rear disc brakes from a GTS. Same thing with the front.
Yeah.
Got a GTS transmission because my third gear was gone. And a couple other things, sway bars, front and rear, GTS strut brace, just little things like that. The drivetrain, aside from that, is stock.
Yeah.
It runs fantastic. It's only got 149,000 miles on it. It's just recently not my daily. I daily it for 8 years straight.
So what was it originally that drew you to this car?
The lines, like I know it's not like dream car, but you know, when you look at cars, people are like, oh, that Ferrari looks good or whatever. I know it's funny to say like Corolla looks good, but they did it right with the body lines on these. I don't know what it was, just the profile of the cars. Like, that's really cool looking. And so yeah, something about it always gravitated towards this platform. I'm glad I still have it.
So it's ridiculous that I've lived in Los Angeles for as long as I have. This show's been going on for over 15 years, and this is my first time here. I feel like an idiot for not coming to this show sooner because it is so amazing. What a fantastic show. I'm so glad that I came. The line to get in here was a little bit long. It's pretty crowded, but yeah, it's totally worth it. And even the parking lot on the way out is like perfect car spotting area. There's so much good stuff that didn't even make it into the show. All right, that's going to be it from Angel Stadium here in Anaheim. If you like what you saw here, please consider subscribing and maybe buying a Hello Road t-shirt. I've got one right here of Pulsar NX Sportback. You might be interested in that, help support the show. So we didn't bring a Japanese classic car to this show. We brought a future Japanese classic car, my 2016 Prius. Yeah, you might laugh, but in 25, 30 years, this car right here might be at the Japanese classic car show. You just wait and see.